Hi everyone, it's Enoch Miller, your Empress of West Hollywood here for another episode of Holding Court with Empress Of WeHo. Welcome! We are still recovering from this epic LA Pride weekend, which is actually a lot of fun, if I do say, even with all the craziness that did happen with the sound and a few other things, but thankfully we made it through, and it seemed like the parade was fucking phenomenal. So go check it out. If you go see the rest of our stuff on Gay Life LA, we have videos and posts from Wednesday to Sunday of amazing stuff, from Pride craziness to Laverne Cox dancing it out on the dance floor at One Oak. So go check it out. It's a lot of fun. And we want to say thank you so much for GayLifeLA.com doing this, as well as Kings Road Apartment Homes for this amazing space you see here today. And our amazing, beautiful, stunning guest we have here, it's Mr. M. Tennyson. And I love it because it's M. It's not anything else but M. And it's so funny because I had a friend back in high school who used to call me E. So that's all. I don't know. Yeah. And that's my initials.
Ours Emmy.
Ours Emmy.
Okay.
Next thing. Okay. So we're going to kind of start right at the beginning with everything from womb to career, and then kind of just go from everything in between. Cool. So you're from Pennsylvania, out there, up east.
Yep,
And you moved to Boston out in like 2005. For school, or did you, like, your whole family move?
Well, I actually, as soon as I graduated high school, I immediately moved to Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
For the summer. I worked at HBO at an internship.
Ooh.
I know. And just came out here to get the lay of the land.
Okay.
And then I went back to Boston to Emerson for an acting degree.
Okay.
And then every summer I'd come back to LA. So I just was between LA and Boston at that point.
Oh, that's a trek too, in and of itself, because this is like a whole other world.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask people this when they come from the East Coast to the West Coast. What was your initial reaction coming to LA, and like, were you like gung ho for it, and was it everything you expected? Were you like getting here and going like, what the fuck did I get myself into?
I love the LA question because oftentimes when people meet me, their initial reaction is, "You're from the East Coast, right?" Which I find.
I don't think that though.
People say that to me all the time, and
Really?
I'm not sure what exactly that means, but I've been in LA now for 14 years since I first moved out here. And when I moved to, I guess growing up, my impression of the left coast,
which is true. When you grow up from a religious background, it's the left coast.
Right. So I grew up very religious, born again Christian family, and my mother would always say, "The left coast this, the left coast that." So for me, I wasn't sure what to expect other than it would be very liberal and open-minded and warm, and at least for those reasons, it met all of my expectations.
Yeah.
But since I've been here, because I've been here so long, people come in and out of LA,
Right.
and sort of the question always is, "But do you like it? Do you like it?" And what I always tell people is that LA rewards the curious. I've been here I've been here for 14 years, and I still will turn a corner and experience something that I've never experienced before. So for that reason, I love LA. But the first couple years was rough.
Yeah.
And I think LA is really enticing, and when I got here, that first 6 months was great.
Right.
And then suddenly it was demoralizing, and the analogy that I always make about LA is it's like being in a really tumultuous relationship.
It is.
Yeah, sometimes LA and I have the best sex of our lives, and then sometimes LA sleeps on the couch, and sometimes we'll have great makeup sex, and then sometimes it's just boring.
And then sometimes just angry fucks you in the hole,
Yeah,
unfortunately. It just really does. And
Totally.
And it's true, and I do feel you're right. A lot of people come out here and they have these high expectations, and they get in and they're just shell-shocked because reality sets in a little bit, and it just it will take you back because, it is a beast. It will chew you up and spit you out if you're not prepared. And I like the fact that you say it rewards the curious, because you do. Everywhere around here, in such a short radius, you can explore this place for years and years and years and still never find everything that's just around the corner. So it's always so great. So growing up in a religious household, I'm very familiar with that. How early were you in your age where you were like noticing, like, okay, maybe I'm a little different?
Noticing what?
Noticing that he's beautiful and colorful. Before or after the wet dream started, but when it kind of was like that inkling of like, ew, maybe or maybe not, I'm gonna start having to look for like conversion therapy.
Total honesty.
Yes.
I didn't really think about the fact that I might be gay until almost after high school.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is, hold the laughter. But growing up, I was exposed immediately to the Christian culture, and every night before I went to bed, my parents would sit me down and say, "Do you want to ask Jesus into your heart today?" And open the Bible. My mom has it written down that I asked Jesus into my heart. Well, I know I'm saying all the things.
I know.
Yeah,
I know the lingo.
Yeah, all the lingo. Asked Jesus into my heart when I was 8.
Okay.
And I did. I accepted him as my Lord and Savior, and I grew up really deeply involved as a church, and I went to a private Christian school. I was just so deep in it. That being said, looking at my life in retrospect, the first time that I knew that I felt differently, looking back on it, was 4th grade. There was a guy in my class who I remember getting that electric butterfly, what the hell was happening in my stomach feeling, and that happened throughout my life. And I think because I was repressed in certain ways, that I internalized those feelings and kind of turned them into something else. I have, I'm looking at these pictures of muscly men because I want to look like these muscly men. And I do, we all want to look a certain way, but there were things that I assigned it to and didn't even really put it in the whole sexuality category. Right. So
I think especially when it's when you are, it's really to this, when you're in a household where anything sexual is already deemed as dirty anyway, you avoid it almost altogether completely, and you try to just be as good, pure Christian as you can be, so you don't get into trouble. So I mean, for when you finally got out of school and are starting to experience yourself, when was the not necessarily your first experience, but when was that first kind of oh my God, it kind of hit you in the face a little bit, going God, I might really be gay, and what was kind of that first initial experience for you?
Sure. Well, hit me in the face is a really choice way of putting it, but
what did I phrase that inappropriately?
It definitely was a phrase.
Phrasing. Yes. I have lots of those issues.
Flagging and phrasing. But the first time I really was confronted with it was my freshman year of college, and I had my first experience with a boy, and I went back to my second semester at Emerson College. And Emerson has a phrase that you are gay until proven straight, or you're gay by May. And anyone who's gone to Emerson College knows what I'm talking about.
Gay by May.
Gay by May. It's because the freshman class will come in, and you have all these, guys and girls and whomever else coming in and bringing what they've been their whole life into the space. And Emerson is this place that is incredibly open and liberal, and it's I went back after that experience, and I'm all upset. Everyone's no, explore yourself, dig deeper into it. And that's why everyone's gay by May, because they're just oh look, I can do anything I want, But
and you do.
And throughout college, I continued to explore my sexuality with men and women. Again, coming from a super conservative Christian background, I didn't have sex until I was 19 or 20.
Okay.
And first time was with a woman, and then shortly after was with a man. And I kind of just kept going back and forth and figuring that out. But the time when I was really confronted with it, as in, okay, this is who I am, was when I finally moved to LA permanently.
Gotcha.
And at the time I was going to Oasis Church, which is down here in Wilshire, with my best girlfriend Noelle. And at that time I started to realize that this wasn't something that was going to go away.
Yeah, it wasn't a phase or anything like that.
It wasn't a phase, it wasn't just a thought in my head, it was, an active thing that I was participating in. So rather than just kind of casting aside how I was raised, I decided to really dig into to pay respect to the way I was raised. Right. So at that church, I went to the pastor of the church. I met with him. I met with the men's leader at the time.
Okay.
They paired me up with some guys who were also struggling with homosexuality, and I sat down with them and wanted to hear their stories. And not because I wanted to change who I was, but I really wanted to really listen and hear if God had something to say about it. Mm-hmm. And I then ended up taking a class with a girlfriend at the same church on sexuality from the perspective of the Bible.
Okay.
And after all of that digging and searching and talking and looking at the verses and all of that stuff, I was like, God and I are A-okay.
Yeah.
Like there isn't any, like, growing up in a Christian home, having a relationship with God. For me, it was that voice in my head that,
Right.
you know, hey God, Dad, you know, friend, father, like
all that.
Yeah, very active in having like a conversation, and that voice was still in my head. Mm-hmm. And when I had those conversations, there was no need to change.
Right.
You know, there's always the, you know, be a good person, do the right thing,
Right.
always try to be a better version of
Right.
yourself. But there was never any voice that was like,
I need you not to be.
fix this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Fix this.
so, you know.
Which is great, and this is what's really cool about it is how you translate that into your music. And so, let's like kind of switch gears a little bit, and we'll kind of combine the two. But so you're getting into music. Mm-hmm. Was that something you were always passionate about growing up, or was it something kind of later on in life that you really fell in love with?
Well, it was something that's always been a part of my life.
Okay.
At the age of 4, my parents put me in piano, and from then until 18, I was a concert-trained pianist.
Oh, wow.
And I was really good, and not in an ego sort of way. It's just that's...
No, when you're concert, I mean that's not an easy thing to do for concerts. I mean, you have to be legit.
Yeah,
on that stuff.
So there was a lot of, and I mean the thing that my parents were always really wonderful at was. To a degree, allowing us to be ourselves and pursue our interests.
Got it.
And so, you know, they tried me in sports. And they were like, he doesn't like that. And then they started putting me in all the arts, and they saw how much I loved that.
Okay.
So in one way, they really cultivated that in me.
Gotcha.
So I was, you know, doing piano from 4 until 18. At 9, I started singing professionally with the Philadelphia Boys Choir,
wow.
and I was traveling around the world.
Yeah.
I sang at the Sydney Opera House.
Oh,
I was
geez.
on Saturday Night Live with Pavarotti and Vanessa Williams.
Wow.
So I was doing a lot of stuff like that as a kid. But the other side of that double-edged sword was that for me, it was so much pressure to succeed.
Right.
And our family is very middle class and didn't, you know, my parents didn't have savings for college. And, you know, so for them it was, what are you going to do to get scholarships?
Right.
We can't pay for school. Like, what are you doing?
That was fun.
Yeah, piano's the thing. So it turned all of that into way too much pressure, and I dropped it.
Okay.
I dropped it. So I went to college. I got in on a BFA acting degree. I ended up doing way more musical theater there, and thought maybe I'd want to do that. But then when I left college, I came out here to try to use my acting degree pretty immediately. Figured out I wasn't interested in that either. Mm-hmm. So over the years, I actually Kings Road Acapella. We're on Kings Road right now, and a group of friends of mine, we do acapella now. Okay. And Kings Road has been around for years, and I'm kind of one of their rotating members.
Okay.
And so that was kind of the thing that I was doing musically. Gay Men's Chorus of LA. I was in that for years, but just kind of coming to this moment now where I'm pursuing music full-time in earnest, like this is the thing that I want to be doing. I literally didn't really think music would be my life again until when I turned 30, which was 2 years ago. And for a number of reasons. Again, there was that, because I left kind of under duress with music when I was 18.
Right.
Over the course of 12 years, I really built up all of these agreements that, you know, I was classically trained, but not technically trained as in music theory.
Right.
Like, how to do everything perfectly.
Right.
So I had this agreement with myself, if I can't do this perfectly and this first piece that I create and put out isn't perfect, then I shouldn't be doing it.
Oh, wow.
And so it wasn't until, you know, I turned 30, and I told myself, I just need to do this.
Right.
The first kind of linchpin to me allowing myself to do that was getting used to the idea of me being mediocre. And it sounds counterintuitive, but it really just kind of, it gave me permission to fail, and for that failure to be okay. And so, you know, once I was able to say, you know, if I can, you know, just do something to do it and to be mediocre at it, and if, you know, it doesn't resonate with somebody, and that's okay, then, you know, it really allowed me to just start putting ideas down, and, you know, you gotta throw a lot of shit against the wall in order for something to stick.
Exactly.
So that was kind of the whole
and it's really great. And then what for you, because I know you do a lot of writing as well, and especially what came out first from this was your little collection, not little, but it's a collection of poetry, and this book that was actually put out first before you started actually putting the music to everything. and I have the name over here, what it was.
A
Wanderer's Love Letter to the Universe.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, it's so cute though, and it's like, I mean, it's taking this kind of collection of poetry and putting it to music. Do you find writing easier than music for you, or do they kind of go in tandem?
Well, so the book hasn't technically come out yet.
Oh, it's not.
No, it's okay. It's coming out. It will be, once I release all the songs on the EP, the book will come out as the last piece that kind of ties everything together. So it was the first thing written, it'll be the last thing released.
Got it.
What was the original question?
What's like with the two of them? Because I mean, music and writing is usually a lot different. Is one easier than the other for you, or are they kind of going in tandem?
Sure. Writing poetry, particularly this poetry, was, I think, far easier than the music portion of it. Mostly because of what I just explained. All the chatter in my head that was telling me I couldn't do that.
Right.
But you know, the book itself came out of a writing practice after I told myself, hey, I'm going to write an album this year, I'm going to do it. And in order to just start getting myself into a creative flow and a creative process, I just committed to writing at least for 30 minutes every single day.
Oh, awesome. No
matter what. And I did a little branding on social media, hashtag 30 days of 30, you can find my stuff there. But every single day I sat down and I did basically a free writing practice.
Okay.
And, you know, I would take a little portion of it, I'd, you know, get a cool picture, I'd put it on Instagram and just had a story.
Yeah.
And the response to that was really great. People were reaching out to me and telling me that, you know, it resonated with them. That there were things that I was saying that were like higher level thinking, but like easily digestible.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of support, particularly from my friend Love Bailey, who's an incredible artist, and she really encouraged me to kind of dig deeper into that. And she was curating Glassbook magazine, and she asked if I could submit some of my writings for that.
Oh, wow.
And so I ended up taking all of the writing and putting it into a 5-part structure.
Right.
And the thematic structure following basically my journey from emotional stagnation to the moment where I realized change is possible, to then taking action, to having victory in myself, and then evolving and realizing kind of the cyclical nature of that.
Right.
And from that, that's where the music started coming in. I started getting in a rhythm, and you know, finally I started hearing melodies and, you know, taking like those words and turning them into lyrics, and then that process started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so for the whole, like, how, like, I know it's taken roughly about 2 years of this whole process of kind of putting everything together. What would you say, like, for the initial inspiration process? I know you kind of went through it a little bit right here, but like, was it specific to something you're like, oh my gosh, this certain situation is going to be the first part, this is going to be, how did you kind of develop those 5 aspects to this whole story?
Sure. Easy is the first song that I released, which you can find on my Spotify, and that song is very specific. It's definitely the most insular, personal, and for me, this idea of stagnation, I was thinking, okay, how do I mirror the 5 parts of this book into 5 songs, and thinking about what moment in my life where I felt the most stagnant, where I felt so much difficulty in getting out of a certain situation and incapable of changing it. That has always been my relationship with my family. And I remember thinking about that one day and then getting in the shower, and the shower is kind of the place where a lot of inspiration comes, just like singing and being stupid with myself. And the line of the verse just kind of came, and I remember singing it and then immediately like running out of the shower and getting my voice notes, but setting fire to the room, watch it burn, pushing love outside your heart, never learn, in the shadow of his light you can't see me, your love isn't easy. And that is like the most, if there's anything that could represent my relationship with my parents and my family, that would be it.
And I really like, because you have something you reported on with this, that it was, that was the epitome of that, your feeling of living in the shadows of a misinterpreted God and misguided faith. And I mean, quite frankly, I feel that so many people especially out in the U.S. have that issue of like, they're struggling with this aspect of still wanting to believe in something that they know is bigger than themselves, but then still having this issue of society going and putting this pressure of like, no, you're going to hell, God hates you, God blah, blah, blah. And I think it's so true of trying to get out of that whole misinterpreted ideal to being really like, I can still have faith, but not feel like I'm this awful, disgusting, horrible person for just being a normal human being.
Yeah.
So I can totally see that struggle. I mean, you can hear it in the music, and it's just that fight to get out of this almost like this oppression from all of that.
Yeah.
So when doing Easy, was that easy?
Yeah.
Was it kind of easy to come up? I mean, obviously the idea was easy to come up with. Was like putting it all together and actually getting your heart onto words. Like, was that really easy to do, or did it take a minute?
Well, at that time, Easy is literally the first song that I sat down and I wrote
All the way
through.
Okay.
Like sat down and plunking out. Again, I'm real rusty on the piano, so like plunking out chords, figuring out the chord progressions, and coming up with the song structure.
Okay.
That's the first one, and so it was difficult in that, like mentally difficult, but that song also flowed so easily.
Okay.
Because of the experience. It's all still very fresh. I mean, I just got married in October to my husband Kyle, and
who's cutie, by the way. If you don't see those pictures, those two are sickening and horrible on Instagram.
Thank you. He is striking and beautiful, and I thank myself every day for him in my life. But writing that out, and then shortly after, I told my parents that we were getting engaged, and they were there, and they okay, we see. And Kyle came home a couple times for Christmas, and they really loved Kyle, and even at one point said, we get it, like we get the, but then the lead up to the wedding was just, send out the invitations, total silence, and they didn't come, and they never told me they weren't coming. I had to find out through the grapevine that they weren't going to be coming.
Right.
And that's something that I still very much live with. I'm actually, a few weeks ago, I went home and kind of closed the circle on a lot of this experience, what I've been trying to figure out with them. And, 10 years now after coming out, and what that experience was like from, the first explosive conversation to the, 150 tiny little conversations to the, I'm leaving and getting out of here and staying at a friend's house. Like, that whole moment, that basically still, that same exact thing just happened when I went home. And it kind of just, while it was painful, it just crystallized to me this whole experience.
Yeah.
It's like, I am not on this planet to change anybody.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they're not going to change. And it's not just like they misunderstand who I am.
Right.
Like, oh, you're gay and we don't approve. It's like, they fundamentally don't understand what my life is like.
And they actually do not care to understand at this point.
It's been so much of like going out and reaching out and being there and doing what I can. But at a certain point, it's like people are who they are. And the only thing that any of us can be asked is that we always do our best.
Right.
That we treat others the way we want to be treated.
Exactly.
And, for me, it's like shining my light and being myself and just trusting that the people who are going to be attracted to that light, that they're going to be there.
Right. 100%. And I mean, it's not easy, especially with, when it's your family, it's the people you grew up with, that raised you, and it's that whole of wanting to be respectful, but also want to be like, I am still trying to be true to who I am as an individual, and showing that, first of all, I'm okay, we're okay, me and the men upstairs are okay, and it's just being able to do that. So do you find it very hard, because, I mean, you hear a lot of the aspect of talking about your faith in this first song. Do you find it really hard to mix the two with the music and that, to kind of get this message across of like, I still love God, I still believe in God, but I'm not believing that He's gonna condemn me just for being gay, and He's okay with that? Do you find that hard to convey, or is it still flow pretty easily with all of them?
It's interesting. I didn't write anything in that song or the album that to me would indicate so much of, well, I guess I didn't write it with the thought,
with that purpose in mind?
Yeah, like I'm trying to communicate that.
Okay.
I very much have a relationship with God, the universe, the divine. But a lot of people have said it's really cool that you're able to, exactly what you're saying, that you're able to blend who you are now with your faith, to have both. And so apparently the music's communicating that, which is fucking awesome.
Well, you do get a very, I mean, your music has a very spiritual aspect about it. I mean, you hear it through that, and it just, I mean, it's something you understand when you hear it, and so I totally get it. And again, you're right. You're not like saying in there like in the lyrics themselves, but I mean it is conveyed very, I think pointedly in all of it. I mean, it's just again, it's also from the experience, so I think it kind of translates a little bit as well too. But so I like that it kind of goes with that. So the next one, which I really liked, and I kind of liked how that starts because it's got this really cool funky start, and so which I thought was really cool, and it was kind of like it starts out a little trippy, and you're just like, ooh, because the first one was like not slow, but I mean it's just very
slow.
I mean it's
a little slow jam.
It's easy. Yeah, it's easy.
It's like
easy. I mean it's like, but it flows very well, and it's just very like, and this one kind of funks it up a little bit, which I really like. So we're gonna play a little clip from here in a second, but. Where then the part, so this is what Spark is about. So it's basically where you felt that there were days, weeks, and times in your life where you felt like your life was stuck on repeat. You get out of bed, roll out of bed, back into my head, and live with the doubts I accept, and you're just kind of this feeling of like stagnation and just like you're paralyzed, kind of doing nothing, moving forward. What was the specific experience with that kind of really helped inspire that song?
Yeah, this song, exactly what you said, it's called Spark because it's literally about that spark of recognition that happens in that deep abyss of the stagnation where you realize that change is completely possible. For me, this song was less about a specific experience, but to me, this song it's a singing meditation reminding myself that in every moment that I've ever had in my life where I thought something was insurmountable, that there's always that moment. And it always does. I've always been okay. Anytime that I have had trouble looking for work, and I'm like, how am I going to pay my bills? Like, then you get a call the next day and, I'm flying off to somewhere and having a job. There's so many of those experiences that I've had in my life. So for this one, like I said, Easy was very insular to an experience and very personal. My hope and desire with Spark is that it's much more universal and able to, that people can relate to it, not just like, I relate with that specific experience, but again, just a meditation and a reminder that, change is always possible. Right. And that comes from within ourselves. Right.
But it's also, it's definitely that aspect of realizing my partner and I joke about it, like it's, if you're on the beam, when you're on the beam, you're good, you're doing things right. When you're off, shit fucks up, but you can always get back on to getting where you need to be and things working out. Because you're right, everything happens all the time that looks like nothing's ever going to work out, and then something does. It's just that little, like you said, like a little spark of something that just comes through, and you're just like, oh, okay, things are going to be okay. I'm going to be able to live. So we're going to do a quick little play from that. Oh, God, we hope.
Here we go.
Okay, so this is Spark, M. Tennyson, the audio. With our audio person.
Holding on to fear, 'cause he feels so safe, like a spark. The spark of new life ripples through shallow peace, illuminating me. The spark of new life.
It gives you this kind of like fun funk tune where it just like makes you want to like, I just want to like get a flowy shirt on and just like dance.
I love it.
It just makes you just feel so like light, I think, with it too. Nice. It gives you that kind of fun like this airiness to it. I really liked about it. And then the first one was very just kind of soothing, and this one kind of gave you a little bit of a move and edge to it. And I know you're kind of working on here coming up because you're going to be actually performing these live for the first time on Saturday for the 2018 Queer Biennial, which is, first of all, I didn't realize how big this was, over like 120 artists, and it's all across the board from musicians to actual artists to sculptors, painters, all these different things, and these different aspects to it. It's everything with it. I did my nails, so I'm like loving to do this with my nails because they're all slick right now.
That happens, or like I'll just like click.
I just like doing this,
I'm always touching my face, but especially like when I have nails.
Oh, I touch my face with lots of things. But so it's this big event. It's been going on actually since the first. And it started out with John Waters with interviewing with him, and it's been a bunch of different installments and musicians coming up and doing little excerpts from some stuff they're doing. So you're kind of the closing party for all this. All 5 songs coming out to play.
Yep.
And you're also working with some people to do some actual movements to this as well, and like do some like choreography. So what's this whole experience gonna be like? So I'm excited for this.
This whole experience.
Yay!
So part of the thing that I love doing the most creatively is looking big picture.
Okay.
And so, when I started the book and then I started writing music, I was like, okay, great. Book, 5 parts of the book, 5 parts to the album. And I'm also on, if you tune into my social media, I'm doing a visual diary.
Yeah.
So each song has 3 video snippets that over the course of the whole project, it'll become a 15-part film that tell the visual story of this. So I'm very big picture. And then the fourth element to this was pulling all of those elements into a single performance art piece.
Okay.
And part of my strategy and hope is that I'll be able to travel around the world with this to galleries and alternative performance spaces and perform it in its entirety. I again, I'm very new to this, so I can't speak much from my experience other than what I've observed of other musicians and artists and my friends who are writing music. But I don't think it's very often that artists, musicians get to have an audience to hear their music in the full context that they wanted it.
Right.
And so for me, in addition to gigging and doing shows and performing it, in a pop space, which I intend on doing, I'm pulling all of the pieces from this project into one space so that people can see the breadth of the thing. So I'm going to be performing this Saturday, June 16th, at the Queer Biennial closing party in downtown LA.
Yes.
It's going to be at Naval Gallery.
Right.
And I'll be going, doors are at 8, I go on at 9, it's free to the public, that's my plug. But in that performance, I'm going to be performing all 5 songs, and interspersed between the songs is all the text, not all the text, that would be overwhelming, is pieces of text from my book.
The book,
Yeah, so I basically created a script and a loose narrative and taking on this character of the Wanderer that's in the book.
So it's almost like a play in a sense,
It
like
is.
almost.
Yeah.
Like, but it's this nice broken up kind of thing where you get the music, you get a little bit of text, you get music, and then kind of like this nice little flow through it.
Yeah, and it's 35-40 minutes, so it's a nice little chunk. But in addition to that, I've been working with choreographer Danny Dolan for the last couple of months. He's been helping me figure out choreography and movement for each of the songs. And another desire for each of these 5 pieces was to create basically a physical language that I could access. So there's a small set of movements that are representative of each song.
Okay.
So weaving those throughout as well.
Ooh, multi-layered, multi-functional. Jesus!
Yeah.
This is like, this is a lot of work you put into this. Yeah. It's just amazing kind of see it all come to a head right now at this point where you being able to put it all together.
Yeah.
And you're probably like,
this week's
excited.
Been really a lot. But I am excited. Actually being here, thank you for having me. Being here is and just talking about it and putting it into context for myself is getting me more excited for it, because I've been locked in my apartment this week, like rehearsing and
checking everything I can imagine.
And it's a lot. From the beginning of this to now, it's been a 2-year build-up, and I've been very vocal in public about every step of my process.
Oh, yeah, but you've been real. I think the nice thing about it is you've been very, just not educational, but you've been very specific, like, hey, this is my process, and everyone I think has just been on that journey with you. So it's like they're not like surprised by anything in a good way, like in a bad way. They're just like, oh no, I'm ready. I'm ready to expect this. I'm ready to expect that. I'm ready. But they will obviously be surprised by the whole everything together, obviously. But I think it's smart when you kind of bring them along their journey with you, because then they feel like they're already a part of it. Yeah. And you kind of carry them along with you through the rest of it.
I hope so.
I'm excited. Well, I'm just really excited because you don't, like you said, you don't see a lot of artists have this almost like complete thought of their music in one EP or one album or whatever it is. And I'm starting to see a lot more younger artists come in like this, like Troye Sivan or Cumberland, where they actually have chapter 1 or chapter 2 or like actual parts to it where it makes a story. instead of just this random music that tells one part here and there and whatever. So I really like that you've taken the time to really give an explanation of beginning, middle, and end, and kind of carry everyone through, and then also the different elements to kind of keep them engaged, because obviously we're such a short attention span, so we need to kind of do something a little to change it up for people to be like, oh, I want to pay attention more because this is different and this is unique and this is fun. So as it's coming all to this head for this weekend, and I thought this was really exciting. I didn't realize that you're one of the founders of the Queer Biennial from over about 6 years ago, and helping put this all together. How did you get started with them? Because, I mean, first of all, it's an amazing organization for what you guys do, bringing to light all these different artists across the board. What really got you guys inspired to kind of put this all together?
Well, to answer your first question, how I got involved, I used to be the art programmer for LA Pride for 3 years. So I started an installation and performance art program there, and Ruben Esparza, who's the chief head curator of the Biennial, and he's the person who founded the whole thing. He was one of the first grants that I dispensed, and he actually showed the first Queer Biennial, like did a preview inside of the Pride Festival. Yeah,
because it was right there under the carport area, right there by the library.
And so that year I did that with him and helped him produce that event. And then he had me come in and help manage the performances for his actual opening. And then 2 years later, when we did the second iteration, I came on as the full performance curator and the domestic performance curator, and then this year I've been the curator in charge of performance. So then I put myself in.
It's like, let's flip that in there.
Because for the last 10 years, in addition to the work that I've done professionally and whatever else, I've also had a side hustle as a curator and a public art consultant. I've done a lot of work with the city of West Hollywood. But I've always been really interested in bringing artists' visions to fruition and help, giving them a platform where they can show their own work and finding money and resource for them. And so now this year, it's great to be a curator, especially the event this year was so magical. It was so, it was so large. I mean, we had about 700 people come through the opening night.
I can imagine.
Yeah, John Waters was there. We had tons of performances. The energy and the vibe in the space was such a celebration of our community, and just the breadth that we had actually 150 artists.
Oh, it was 150. Okay,
yeah,
it's a lot.
It's a lot of artists, and there was a lot going on, and it was overwhelming to be in this space with so many people, but it also was, again, just such a celebration of our community. And then to be able to also say, hey, I'm also one of those artists this year. And, I'm helping take all of those skills that I've built, helping other artists, and now helping myself. That's also just like a very micro example of a much larger emotional journey that I'm on, so.
And I find it really, because I mean, it's true, especially our community around here with our community, it's very spread out. It's very pocketed in one area or one genre or all this. And I love the fact that you kind of like grabbed everyone and pulled them all together to this one location that gave everyone a little taste of a little bit here, a little bit here, all in one setting. So, and I feel people appreciate that more because you never really know everything that's all out there, especially when they're local artists. They don't always have the budgets to put on these galleries or shows. And so it really gives this platform for, again, like I said, a celebration of this community of art from all different genres and platforms and everything with that really kind of puts it together, that really showcases it in such a positive light for the LGBT community. And I really was, like, I saw all the pictures from it. It was just, like, amazing. I mean, Ruben got in drag, which I have never seen.
Was so great.
It was lit. I was gagging. I did not even realize it was him until I saw the thing. It was like me and drag. I'm like, no.
Yes.
She looked amazing. It really was. It was just this celebration, and you could tell everyone was just so energized to be there because it really was this fun experience. And I could totally see it probably was overwhelming as hell with all of it. But I mean, I think people were just so ecstatic about it, and I cannot wait to see what you guys do next year with all that.
Same.
So Saturday starts at 8, and it's free, bitches. Free to the public at, you said Naval
Gallery, downtown.
Gotcha.
In South Park.
And South Park. And you can go to Queer Biennial and go check out all the information on there. It's queerbiennial.org. And they have all the stats and like the show schedule and everything with that, so you can guys check it out. But definitely come see am on Saturday at 9 doing the full 5 EP that you can check out. And I'm stoked for it. This is gonna be really great. And also just go check them out on everything on social media. M Tennyson, it's TENNYSON, and it's just mtennyson.com.
Oh, it's Boy Untitled.
Oh, Boy Untitled. That's what it is. Boyuntitled.com.
Boyuntitled.com.
Yeah.
Boy Untitled on Instagram.
Yes.
Check me out.
Yeah, and go check out something that's amazing music. We want to say thank you so much for being here with us
Oh,
today.
thanks
And we're so
for
excited
having
for
me.
you
Yes,
for the launch
thank
of this. So Boy Untitled 5-person EP, which is going to be amazing.
Yes.
And we cannot wait to see it. Make sure you check them out on everything. And thank you again for gaylifela.com.
Thank you.
And King's Room Apartment Homes for making this happen, because this space is sickening. Thank you guys. Happy Pride Month.
Pride.
Bye.